Sayın İbrahim Halil Kırşan'a teşekkürlerimizi sunuyoruz. Sizleri yormamak adına ara vermeden özel sunumlarımıza devam edeceğiz. Şimdi de sırada Belçika Enerji Dönüşümünün Ekonomisi özel sunumunu yapmak üzere Bologna İstanbul Ticaret ve Yatırım Ofisi Ticaret ve Yatırım Ateşesi Belçika Başkonsolosluğundan Gérard SEGHERS'i sahneye davet ediyoruz.
Well, I'm not a specialist in the energy industry, but I'm coming from a country that is consuming a lot of it, a very rich country, Belgium. For many different reasons, it's one of the richest countries in the world. But the main reason is location. And basically, Belgium is located right in the middle of one of the most affluent regions in the world. And that comes with a price. It's a very high energy consumption, and you know that, well, you need to do something to make that energy consumption as green as possible. The good news is Belgium is one of the most innovative nations in the world as well, meaning that we have a lot of talented people trying to find solutions to make this energy transition happening. And this is urgent. I mean, it's climate change. I mean, very few people actually question the fact that it's happening. It's happening very fast. And we know as well that, the fossil resources for energy are dwindling. It's a matter of, not if, but when that thing is happening. There is always opportunities in a good crisis. A good opportunity is to regulate, and Europe and Belgium in particular is very good at regulating things. And that has sometimes a very positive effect. And here we have something that is quite remarkable. Brussels was one of the most polluted cities in Europe. It was a city that had been conceived for most of the 20th century as a car-centric city where the cars were just basically the king of the road. And that thing has changed dramatically in the last 20 years. And it's happening through regulation. The same thing goes for housing code. The housing code is in Belgium in terms of energy one of the strictest in the world, meaning that if you're building a new construction, the standards, the norms are very, very strict in terms of what you can do for energy consumption. Well, there are some similarities and also differences between the energy mix in Belgium and Turkey. We will go to that very briefly. Belgium was one of the nations in the world that relied the most on nuclear energy for a very long time with France. And right now, Belgium is questioning that policy. 20 years ago, the Greens, the political party for ecology, managed to convince people in Belgium to basically phase out nuclear energy. Nowadays, with what's happening in Ukraine, the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, and questions about reliability of supply from Russia in terms of fossil fuel, it's basically a question mark. Do we need to phase out nuclear energy in our country? There are many, many, many people now questioning that approach. We had 7 nuclear power plants that, when they were all running, had a 60% share of the electricity generated in the country. And nowadays, we shut down already 2 of those. And we're going to shut down another 2, meaning that we need to find a way to change the energy mix of Belgium very, very rapidly. And it is happening. And it's happening mostly through offshore wind power. And we'll go through that later on. Turkey has a different energy mix, relying on fossil fuel and also coal a lot in terms of source of energy. We like it or we don't, but our carbon-based energy sources are still a big chunk of the energy mix of many countries, including Belgium, mostly with natural gas, and also Turkey. But it's changing a lot. I mean, Turkey is investing a lot, of course, in going through the energy transition as well. So we know that fossil fuels are still going to be around for a while, and there are ways to basically minimize the impact of fossil fuels. Large energy company in Belgium, and the biggest one is the French group Enerji, which took over Electrabel, the main producer of electricity in our country. Enerji has a huge R&D facility trying to minimize the impact of fossil fuel on gas emissions. But it's also the role of the private sector companies. I mean, for example, here in Turkey, Limak, one of the main sponsors of this event here, has actually acquired boilers from John Cockerill, a leading company for cogeneration. And cogeneration is certainly a way to basically reduce the carbon footprint of natural gas power plants. Turkey is a major hub and wants to play the role of being a major hub for the energy flows between, well, Azerbaijan and Europe and the rest of the world. TANAP, and I just got an email today from a Belgian company that has signed a deal with TANAP to basically maintain the pipes between Georgia and Bulgaria for the transition of gas from Azerbaijan to Italy. So good news. Energy transition in Belgium, I mean, it's happening, and it's happening because of this policy that was designed 20 years ago of shutting down the nuclear power plants. And the main bets that Belgium has made is on offshore wind. Well, but first of all, the people involved in energy transition, it's either the companies, and we'll go back to that, or, well, government-funded organization. Here, what we have is a former coal mine, and you can see that there is this structure here that's, that was used to mine coal 1,000 meters deep and things like that, and bring it back to the surface. Now, Energieville is a research facility that is one of the largest facilities dedicated to energy transition. 750 people, 750 people actually work in labs to design technologies, to improve technologies for energy transition. It's mostly, well, government funded, either through universities or through governmental organizations. That's the kind of things they do. I mean, the solar cells, I mean, that kind of technologies. But the private sector has a very big role to play as well. I mean, we saw that John Cockerill is a big developer of cogeneration boilers, but it's also now the biggest EPC for concentrated solar power in the world as well. So they're moving more and more towards renewable energy as well. Belgium is betting very, very, very hard on offshore wind power. The reason being it's the North Sea is actually a very windy location. And basically, if you look at Europe, basically the northern part of Europe and the North in particular is probably the best location in terms of building offshore wind power. And it's moving very fast. 20 years ago, there wasn't a single wind turbine offshore in Belgium, and now we will see that we have a lot of those. We have already the equivalent of 2 nuclear power plants, roughly, of offshore capacity installed. And it's moving very fast. We're going to invest even more in that type of technology. So already a lot of parks developed, and there is a new part of the territorial sea of Belgium that will be devoted as well for the installation of offshore wind power. I just mentioned that the first wind turbine was installed offshore in Belgium like 20 years ago. It means that we are already thinking about, well, things like decommissioning, revamping, modernizing existing wind turbines. And a company that does that very well, it's Tractable. Having 20 years of experience already in offshore wind power means that we have companies who have gained a lot of experience building those offshore wind power structures, which are very complicated to make. I mean, the first ones that were made were based on models of the offshore gas or oil exploration things, and it didn't work very well. So basically, they transformed the whole industry by reinventing how you build big structures offshore. We also have 2 companies, Yandenu and Deme, which are for transportation and erection of those large structures amongst the best specialists in the world. So having 20 years of experience already brings a lot of expertise as well in Belgium. And I know that Turkey is looking very much into offshore wind power as well. The World Bank has prepared a plan that could basically help Turkey diversify its energy sources and greening it by starting to build an offshore wind power industry as well. So there are certainly, on those slides, potential partners for Turkey as well. I know that something is also very, very interesting for Turkey today. It's because of the hydroelectricity that is being produced in this country. It's the solar capacity built on water. And that's something that the same companies, Tractable, Deme, and Yandenu, are looking into as well, because basically what you have is a situation where sometimes you don't have wind, but you have sun. And a big problem is always putting roughly the same amount of electricity to the network, to the TSO, to minimize this imbalance between what is possible to inject into the network, integrating solar power in facilities where you generate wind power, offshore wind power, might be a good idea as well. Big problem, of course. I mean, the more renewable you inject in the network, the less people at TEH and their colleagues have a good night's sleep. I mean, they basically get very nervous when sometimes you have a load that is injected that's well, makes it impossible to keep a balance. And basically, there are different solutions. One way to go is energy storage, and Belgium is investing a lot in batteries. We started with virtually zero batteries a couple of years ago, and now we have already 150 megawatts of batteries installed, and it is moving very, very fast. I mean, because of the CRMs, basically the money that companies get as subsidies to provide electricity when there is a gap between the need and well, the consumption and the production. Well, basically, a lot of people are investing a lot of money in that industry today in Belgium. But energy storage could also be hydrogen. And Belgium is investing a lot in hydrogen. We believe, even though today, because of different issues, including unclear regulation, hydrogen might actually have some setbacks in Europe, it's actually a part of the solution to make the transition happening. And one way to go, and I know that people at Tractable are working very hard on it, it's basically to store the offshore wind power that will be generated when it comes in excess, to store it in the form of hydrogen molecules. And hydrogen is a big thing because we already have in Belgium a very rich ecosystem, a complete ecosystem in the hydrogen industry. Could be, well, we have a lot of production of renewables. We have companies that are already specialized in the transportation of gases and including hydrogen. We have people who are developing new technologies in the hydrogen industry. So we have the whole thing. I mean, that's basically something that is quite unique. And Belgium is betting a lot on hydrogen to decarbonize, for example, heavy industry. It's a well-kept secret that basically polluting industries such as the cement industry, the steel industry, the glass industry, which are all present in Belgium, are responsible for a major part of carbon emissions in Belgium. So those people actually have a lot of incentives to look at what is happening in terms of hydrogen as a way to basically, well, emit less and less CO2. We also have now the largest engineering firm that is being built right now in Belgium between two leaders in the energy industry and energy engineering. It's a joint venture between Technip, and Technip, well, most of you know Technip as a big engineering firm for fossil fuels, but basically they're investing a lot as well in the energy transition. So Technip and John Cockerill are actually making a partnership, and John Cockerill is today the largest manufacturer in the world of electrolyzers to generate hydrogen. And we're talking about green hydrogen here. I mean, that will be hydrogen that will be generated with electricity coming from either wind power or solar. Oops. And this is a little reference here in Turkey somewhere. I think it's in a steel manufacturer here in Turkey. And John Cockerill is certainly looking at this market as well, Turkey, with a lot of interest, because Turkey will invest a lot in renewable. And I know that the steel industry here is very worried about things like CBAM that will make it impossible for certain manufacturers of products to export to Europe without paying taxes. And then Belgium, like Turkey, wants to play the role as a hub of energy for its neighbors. And of course, today it is already happening. France is exporting a lot of nuclear electricity to different countries in Europe, and it's transiting through Belgium. And in 2022, when Russia invaded Ukraine and when natural gas from Russia stopped to flow to Germany, well, Belgium played a critical role in supplying natural gas to Germany. So natural gas coming from Norway and also from Algeria and from GNL as well. We have some GNL facility as well in Zeebrugge. But nowadays, the big idea is to use that capacity that we have to, for example, send natural gas in main markets in Europe. We want to use that as well in the future to transport hydrogen. So H2 that could actually go through pipes to markets such as the Ruhrgebiet, the industrialized part of Germany. So, to make a long story short, we have a huge responsibility as Belgians because we consume a lot of energy, and we have big ambitions and also advantages in making things happen to minimize our carbon footprint. So thank you so much.